Hello, welcome to the Derry Museum of History. My name is Mark Mastromarino. I'm the curator of the museum. And unfortunately, the museum's not open because we're still closed with COVID-19. But we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 14 moon landing. And you may ask why. And read it in the Derry News. Derry's own first American in space, Alan Shepard Jr., took his moon stroll in February 1971 aboard Apollo 14. So we'll be putting up an exhibit in the town hall. We have an exhibit case in the lobby there so that we can share some of the wonderful artifacts that we've collected over the years. And I'd just like to highlight a few of them. I'd like to start with this wonderful letter. It's an autographed letter signed by Alan Shepard to the Benjamin C. Newell, who's the chairman of the Nutfield Anniversary Celebration. And on April 21st, 1969, Alan wrote, "Dear Mr. Newell, I have just written to Mr. Kenneth Davis expressing my regret that I cannot his and your thoughtful invitations to be with you in Derry in July. I hope some last-minute changes would have allowed my participation, thus my late answer to your letter." He goes on to say, "We have a flight scheduled at Cape Canaveral during the middle of July, and the preliminary requirements on my time will preclude my attendance and support of the 250th celebration." Well, if you look at the date, April 21st, 1969, referring to a flight scheduled for July, and of course was Apollo 11, the first time men landed on the moon. Now, Apollo 14 in 1971 was the third landing. And there's some things I would like to point out for that. Apollo 14, this is the patch. It's got Shepard, Russa, and Mitchell's names on it. And you can see the picture of circling the moon, the Antares, which was the lunar module, and Kitty Hawk, which was the command module. Now you notice there are three names on this, and whereas Alan's first flight in Freedom 7, he was alone. Gemini was two-man missions, and Apollo were three men. And Alan was not only aware that he was a member of a crew, but he was a member of a greater team at NASA, the hundreds of mission control and flight operations people, and also all the contractors and aerospace industry companies that put together all the spacecraft. And maybe people are not aware that after 1961, Alan stayed on at NASA because he was in line to fly another Mercury mission, the last Mercury mission, in 1963, but it was canceled because they figured Mercury had completed its tasks and they would start the Gemini missions. So Alan was signed up for a Gemini mission, but before he could train for that, in 1963 came down with Meniere's disease in his left ear, which was a fluid buildup that caused vertigo and dizziness, and not something that he could fly with, so he's pulled off the active flight roster. But as a team member, he stayed on at NASA, became chief astronaut, the head of the astronaut department, in charge of training and personnel decisions. Until 1968, he heard that he was able, that a new operation had been invented. It was experimental at that phase. In 1969, he went through with it and was able to get the Meniere's disease cured, and was back on active flight rotation. And his friend, the flight operations officer, Pete Slayton, signed him up to go on Apollo 13. But the head of NASA said he hadn't had enough training, so he switched the crews from Apollo 13 and Apollo 14. And anybody who's seen the movie Apollo 13 knows that that mission did not make it to the moon. An oxygen tank exploded, and they were lucky to come back. The astronauts were lucky to come back alive, and Alan was on the ground at Mission Control helping out there. Okay, so the Apollo 14 mission. We have Edgar Mitchell and Commander Alan Shepard landing on the moon surface on February 5th, about 4:30 in the morning, and they can't wait to get outside and play. I mean, get outside and do all sorts of lunar experiments. And that's what the basic mission was, a science mission, mostly geological. They trekked over a mile to Cone Crater and didn't make it to the rim, but that's where they were supposed to collect moon rocks. It was supposed to be the oldest in the galaxy. And they did that. They collected over 92 pounds of moon rocks and lugged them back. Moon dust samples, one of the largest, the third largest moon rock collected was 19 pounds. It was called Big Bertha. But with all the science, they did seismic experiments that, they would do charges and then measure the shaking and everything. For all that, what the mission is best remembered for is Alan Shepard hitting 2 golf balls on the moon. And the only person to have ever done that. And this is not one of them, unfortunately, but it is an Alan Shepard signed golf ball. It wasn't a regulation golf club he used. He had a 6-iron, a head of a 6-iron attached to a collapsible rod that was used to collect. There was a scoop at the end to collect lunar dust. But he had this all planned ahead of time, and it was approved by Deke Slayton, the commander, the flight commander. And so he had brought 2 golf balls with him, dropped the first one, and since the suit was so bulky, he couldn't take a regular swing, so he just kind of did a 1-arm sand trap shot, and first kind of just hit dirt. Did it again, and the ball went maybe 100, 200 yards. And then he got another ball, put it down, took a shot, and he said it went for miles and miles and miles. And the reason for that, of course, is that the lunar gravity is 1/6 of the Earth's. And he said it wasn't just the distance, but the hang time. It was in the air, in space for 30 seconds at least, he said. So Henniker Brewing Company in New Hampshire came out with miles and miles dry hopped pale ale in 2011, and we have a can here. It's empty. And the famous Alan Shepard golf bobblehead, which is the New Hampshire Historical Society is selling, and we have some of those. Have to remember, though, that it wasn't the only sporting event. Wasn't golf. Edgar Mitchell also had a lunar sample rod that he took and threw like a javelin. Also went pretty far into the same crater that golf balls went. But I don't think there's any Edgar Mitchell bobbleheads with a javelin throw. Okay. Derry was immensely proud of Alan Shepard for his golf shot and his moon flight and his successful return to Earth on February 9th. On February 5th, when they landed on the moon, Derry sent over 425 people signed a telegram sent to Captain Alan B. Shepard, Jr., USN. It is with glad hearts and swelling pride that we extend to you and your gallant crew a hearty well done for your triumphant exploit to the lunar surface, displaying once again America's determination to conquer space in behalf of men of all nations. This is the original scroll telegram. About 30 feet long. So Derry, of course, celebrated Alan's first historic flight, Freedom 7, with 2 parades. One when he successfully splashed down on May 5th. Of course, he wasn't present for that parade because he was still in in the ocean. But he did show up in 1962 for a big celebratory parade. And for the Apollo 14, Derry had another parade for Alan. But before that one occurred, Chicago had a big celebration and a parade for all three of the astronauts. And we have some of the ticker tape from that parade. The Derry parade occurred on April 15th, and Alan and Louise, his wife, were escorted from Concord, where they spent the morning at the state capitol. He addressed the legislature and all sorts of honors. And then state police escort all the way down 93 to the town line, Londonderry town line, which is where the parade started. And it traveled from Londonderry town line, 102 down Broadway, took a left onto Crystal Ave, all the way up Crystal Ave to the reviewing stand at Hood Plaza. And there were over 75 different units of this parade, and over 15,000 spectators lined the streets, and it took over an hour and a half. And after that evening, Derry had a special celebration, a banquet and reception for Alan at the Sheraton Wayfarer Motor Inn, and we do have a program for that. He was, the Judge Grinnell, George Grinnell, a relative, was the presided over those festivities, and Governor Walter Peterson introduced Alan, who gave a speech. 22 members of the Pinkerton Academy class of 1940, his classmates, attended, and Pinkerton Academy students were ushers for the evening. We also have a ticket for the banquet. Dutch treat reception, 6 to 7 p.m., and the dinner at 7:15 p.m. at $8 a person. And if anybody knows what was served for dinner, probably chicken, let me know. It'd be good to find out. Louise and Alan spent, that was Thursday. Friday, there was a lunch at the Hoodcroft Country Club restaurant, and Alan dedicated a new coronary care unit at Alexander Eastman Hospital, and then the rest of the day was spent with family, and they left town the next Saturday morning. And Alan did return because his parents still lived in Derry. In 1989, after the death of his mother, his father died earlier. That was the last time Alan came to town, when his mother's house was sold at auction. Sadly, Derry had an opportunity to purchase the house at auction then, and again in 2001 after the house changed hands, but did not either time, so it's in private hands. Okay. One further commemoration of Alan occurred after his death in 1998, when the new Derry post office, which was opened earlier, the name was changed to the Alan B. Shepard Jr. Post Office Building. And we have a program for this that was attended and signed by Congressman Sununu, who introduced the bill in Congress, changing the name. Signed this, and Alan's daughters, Laura and Juliana, were also present at the ceremony. Well, I'm glad you could join me for this little chat about Alan Shepard and Apollo 14 mission, and a reminder that we will be having a exhibit of these items at the Derry Municipal Building. Follow the news, and hopefully we'll have the museum open and you could come and see this in person. And have a good day, evening, something.